The Sanctuary by E.F. Benson, read by Roy Macready. The Sanctuary. Francis Elton was spending a fortnight's holiday one January in the Engadine when he received the telegram announcing the death of his uncle Horace Elton and his own succession to a very agreeable property. The telegram added that the cremation of the remains was to take place that day, and it was therefore impossible for him to attend, and there was no reason for his hurrying home. In the solicitor's letter that reached him 2 days later, Mr. Angus gave fuller details. The estate consisted of sound securities to the value of about £80,000, and there was as well Mr. Elton's property just outside the small country town of Wedderburn in Hampshire. This consisted of a charming house and garden and a small acreage of building land. Everything had been left to Francis, but the estate was saddled with a charge of £500 a year in favour of the Reverend Owen Barton. Francis knew very little of his uncle, who for a long time had been much of a recluse. Indeed, he had not seen him for nearly 4 years, when he had spent 3 days with him at this house at Wedderburn. He had vague but slightly uneasy memories of those days, and now, on his journey home, as he lay in his berth in the rocking train, his brain, rummaging drowsily among its buried recollections, began to disinter these. There was nothing definite about them. They consisted of suggestions and sidelights and oblique impressions, things observed, so to speak, out of the corner of his eye, and never examined in direct focus. He had only been a boy at the time, having just left school, and it was in the summer holidays, hot, sultry weather of August, he remembered, that he had paid him this visit before he went to a crammer's in London to learn French and German. There was his uncle Horace, first of all, and of him he had vivid images. A grey-haired man of middle age, large and extremely stout, with a cushion of jowl overlapping his collar, but in spite of this obesity he was nimble and light in movement, and with a merry blue eye that was equally alert, and seemed constantly to be watching him. Then there were 2 women there, a mother and daughter, and as he recalled them, their names occurred to him too. They were Mrs. Isabel Ray and Judith. Judith, he supposed, was a year or 2 older than himself, and on the first evening had taken him for a stroll in the garden after dinner. She had treated him at once as if they were old friends, had walked with her arm round his neck, had asked him many questions about his school, and whether there was any girl he was keen on, all very friendly but rather embarrassing. When they came in from the garden, certainly some questioning signal had passed between the mother and the girl, and Judith had shrugged her.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?